When a man carries a .38 revolver at his waist, wears a wide-brimmed fedora, and gallops wildly across the sun-scorched Gobi Desert, it is hard to tell whether he is a Hollywood screen hero or a real-life naturalist. His name was Roy Chapman Andrews, a man who embodied the word adventure on the front pages of newspapers throughout the 1920s. Tonight, let us sit beside the softly flickering fire and walk into the true story of his life, one you need not strive to remember. He escaped death countless times, nearly crushed by a whale amid the rough waves of the East China Sea, surrounded by bloodthirsty bandits on misty wilderness plains, and even having a venomous viper crawl into his bed. Yet he never turned back, for he held a dream deemed absurd by scientists across the world, to seek the origins of human civilization and the lost prehistoric dynasty within the cursed land of death. There were no GPS systems or satellite phones in that era, only a pure longing for the unknown. When he knelt in the red earth of the flaming cliffs and gently brushed away the dust with a fine tool to reveal a dinosaur egg spanning hundreds of millions of years, he had already foreseen his own destiny. The true beginning of his story lies not on gilded award stages, but in the corridors of the American Museum of Natural History in New York in 1906. At that time, Roy Chapman Andrews was just a poor young graduate. Desperate to work at the museum, he told the director he would even sweep the floors. The director teased him. "How could an educated man like you take up cleaning?" Roy replied earnestly, "As long as I can be among these specimens, I care not whether I hold a broom or a scalpel." And so he began mopping floors and cleaning whale skeletons. The work was tedious and reeked of decay, yet he threw himself into it wholeheartedly. Fate opened a new path during his first scientific expedition at sea. He boarded a ship to track whales and document the habits of these deep-sea giants. In a violent storm, an enraged sperm whale crashed heavily into the vessel, throwing the young Roy straight into the icy ocean. He struggled amid towering waves, watching the massive whale tail sweep past inches from his face. In that moment, fear faded away, replaced only by a primal awakening within him. He realized his soul did not belong to sterile laboratories, but to the unpredictable wilderness. From then on, this young man who started as a cleaner began planning an unprecedented grand expedition, journeying deep into the heart of the Far East to uncover Earth's deepest secrets. In 1922, China was torn apart by warlord division. Against this chaos, Roy Chapman Andrews led an astonishingly large convoy beyond Zhangjiakou. At a time when camels remained the only reliable means of transport, he brought 7 vintage Ford cars and 5 heavy-duty trucks. He intended to drive these costly machines into the unmarked wilderness of the Mongolian Gobi. Local residents stared in awe at these smoking mechanical beasts, believing them to be creatures from the underworld. The convoy carried not only gasoline and water, but also state-of-the-art film cameras, radio equipment, and firearms of the era. Seated in the lead vehicle, Roy's gaze was as sharp as an eagle's. He knew this was no ordinary journey, it was a battle. He had to endure extreme heat and sudden sandstorms, while also navigating treacherous warlords and ruthless bandits. On one occasion, his convoy was surrounded by armed bandits on horseback. Instead of retreating, Roy drew his revolver and stepped forward calmly. He exploited the outlaws' awe of modern machinery, sounding the car horn and speaking firmly. His natural aura of authority left these hardened raiders stunned and hesitant. This courage to walk the edge of a blade stemmed from his unshakable belief. Beneath those red cliff walls lay treasures capable of shaking the foundations of the civilized world. When the expedition team reached a place known as the Flaming Cliffs, the land stretched out in shades of crimson as if soaked in blood. Temperatures soared high enough to disable precision instruments, leaving every member parched, lips cracked, and some even suffering from hallucinations due to dehydration. Amid this desolate silence, Roy's team discovered strange sandstone formations. Kneeling down, he ran his experienced hands over the rock and held his breath in shock. These were not stones, they were eggs, clustered in intact nesting sites. For the first time in human history, proof emerged that dinosaurs reproduced by laying eggs. Prior to this discovery, scientists believed dinosaurs gave birth to live young like mammals. This breakthrough single-handedly overturned the entire field of paleontology. As the red sunset light fell upon Roy, he stood like a knight who had found the Holy Grail, witnessing a miracle of life amid ancient ruins. Yet the pursuit of fossils came at a heavy price. Some team members fell gravely ill, while others crumbled under the immense psychological pressure of the wilderness. Roy himself once got lost deep in the desert, surviving 2 full days without water or food, hovering on the brink of death. He wrote in his diary, "The air is thick with dust and the scent of death, yet I have never felt more alive and clear-minded." This obsession with the truth turned him into a passionate visionary, a messenger wandering between prehistoric antiquity and the modern world. As the expedition pressed onward, Roy soon realized his greatest foe was not nature alone, but the tangled political tensions of the time. Sino-foreign relations were extraordinarily sensitive, and he was accused by many of cultural plunder, even suspected of conducting espionage under the guise of scientific research. Every gallon of gasoline required endless negotiations, and every fossil transported out of the desert faced extortion at countless checkpoints. Roy was forced to travel constantly between the desert frontier and Beijing, navigating the tangled web of political power. The hands meant to hold scientific scalpels now spent their days signing checks and legal contracts. This endless political maneuvering left him exhausted. He longed for the starry skies of the Gobi. For all the snakes and bandits, the wilderness felt far purer than deceitful high society salons. On one return journey, his convoy was caught in the crossfire of a sudden warlord battle. Stray bullets pierced his car door, narrowly grazing his thigh. He remained calm, guiding the convoy through gunsmoke and chaos with steely composure, inspiring quiet awe and fear in his followers. He was no longer merely a naturalist, he had become a master of survival amid war. This shift in character was the hidden cost he paid for fame. He grew increasingly reclusive, often talking to himself in solitude, as if only the fossils slumbering for millions of years could be trusted companions. By 1930, when Roy Chapman Andrews withdrew from the Gobi for the final time, he had become the most celebrated explorer in the world. He returned to New York to take up the position of director at the American Museum of Natural History. What should have been the pinnacle of his career became a prison for his soul. He was forced to dress in formal evening wear, repeating the same adventure stories thousands of times at fundraising banquets. The public adored him, yet saw him merely as an entertaining storyteller. No one truly listened to the wind whispering through the flaming cliffs, nor understood the reverence of touching prehistoric relics in the face of despair. His marriage crumbled after years of prolonged absence from home. Surrounded by the glittering lights of the big city, he felt an overwhelming sense of desolation. Frequent illness plagued him, old wounds from his desert expeditions aching relentlessly. He realized the hands once accustomed to holding revolvers and excavation brushes were now trapped behind piles of tedious paperwork. Late at night, he would wander alone into the museum exhibition halls, standing beneath the massive dinosaur skeletons he had unearthed himself. Only in the shadow of these ancient giants could he breathe freely. He spent his entire life searching for origins, only to find that, like the fossils around him, he too had been frozen on display by the tides of time. The crushing weight of trading wild frontier freedom for the constraints of civilized society became his final, helpless struggle in life. Roy Chapman Andrews passed away peacefully in California in 1960. After his death, Hollywood drew inspiration from his life to create Indiana Jones. The glamorous hero of the silver screen captures only the shallowest layer of his real story. His legacy to the world extends far beyond the world-shaking dinosaur eggs he discovered. It is an unyielding spirit of relentless exploration. He answered the puzzle posed in the prologue: why must a scientist fight like a soldier? Because in such turbulent times, truth unguarded by resolve would be buried beneath desert sands. Civilization without courage would fall silent amid ruins. His true legacy lives on in the gleaming fossil bones displayed in natural history museums, a reminder of life's fragile yet unyielding resilience. The wind still blows across the flaming cliffs today, and countless secrets may still lie hidden beneath those red sandstone walls. This legendary explorer in the fedora has faded into the endless flow of time, settling into eternal tranquility. And so our story ends for tonight. Let the fire burn low. May you find peace wandering through the red wilderness in your dreams. The world remains vast, and adventure never ends. Good night.